If you're in the market for an immensely comfortable and capable luxury SUV that also has a reputation for reliability, look no further than the Lexus GX. This nameplate first showed up in America back in 2003, and it continues to be built off of a sturdy body-on-frame architecture, something that it shares with the legendary Toyota Land Cruiser. Now, around a year and a half ago, Lexus did the unthinkable. They gave the GX a comprehensive redesign, and everything was basically new from the ground up. We're talking about a new frame, a new design on the outside, a new powertrain under the hood, a twin-turbo V6, and on the inside, we have their latest infotainment software. Now, of course, 2 years later, Lexus has basically kept the GX the same, and as you can see this week, we are testing out the newest model, a 2026 GX 550 Luxury Plus, and the big question I want answered for those of you who are looking for an extremely comfortable and capable luxury SUV, does the GX still represent the best from Japan? Stay tuned to find out. Now, before we start talking about the latest design for this all-new third-generation GX, let me first start by popping the hood and reminding you guys what's powering this thing. Now, unlike its platform mates, the Toyota Land Cruiser and Toyota 4Runner, the GX gets a unique powertrain, and that continues this year. It's the company's signature 3.4-liter twin-turbocharged V6. Now, as you can see, once you lift up the hood, you're going to find a very tidy-looking engine bay with a nice-looking engine cover. It's got twin intake plenums, as you can see as well. It's a longitudinally mounted 3.4-liter gasoline direct and port-injected double overhead cam V6. This engine first saw its position in the lineup under the Lexus LS 500 back in 2018. It eventually started making its way into the Toyota trucks. Here in the GX, it makes 349 horsepower and 479 pound-feet of torque. That's a healthy increase versus the 301 horsepower that we got in last year's 4.6-liter V8, or at least the previous generation, not necessarily last year's. The transmission is the Lexus designed 10-speed automatic transmission, while every GX comes with full-time four-wheel drive with a low-range transfer case and a locking center diff. If you guys go for the Overtrail model, you'll have an additional locking rear diff for those of you who want to go do some more serious off-roading. Now, fuel economy is not wonderful, but it is better versus the old V8, rated at 15 in the city and 21 on the highway, around 17 combined. You have a 21.1 gallon fuel tank. In theory, you should be able to go around 350 miles of range on a full tank of premium fuel. Now, Lexus claims 0 to 60 is around 6.5 seconds, while its top speed is around 109 miles an hour. While the GX did get some improvements since it first came out in terms of towing, max towing is around 9,000 pounds, but this model here, the Luxury Plus, tops out at around 7,600 pounds, which is what it was when it first came out back in 2024. Now, curb weight, the GX has also got bigger and more powerful and heavier for this generation. This model, as it sits, weighs in at around 5,700 pounds. If you guys look at the Overtrail trim, it'll roughly be around 200 pounds lighter, and that's because it loses the third row when you guys go for the Overtrail trim. But let's go ahead and close up the hood here and talk about the exterior styling. Now, as you can see, when this GX first came out, it definitely had a bold look that made you instantly recognize it as a GX. In fact, the Lexus design language here has definitely gotten some nice evolutionary changes over the years. You still have, of course, that very bold spindle grille at the front, but of course, it also looks really good on the body lines of the GX. You can see it has this really nice looking hood with lots of bulging fender flares, which are extremely visible from the driver's seat. It kind of gives you, again, like you're driving something that's powerful and capable. I love the standard premium triple beam LED headlights that every GX model comes with. You can see it includes their signature daytime running light, LED turn signals as well. This area here almost looks like it's part of the headlight from afar, but as you can see, it's just a fake piece right there with some gloss black. It's not even an actual functional air intake opening. I almost think that Lexus could have done without it, but I can see what they were trying to do, and they're trying to match the droops that you find in the spindle grille, which has like a nice matte black finish to it. The grille itself is more upright and positioned taller this year, but you can see the Lexus logo is front and center, which houses the radar sensor for the Lexus Safety System 3.0, I'm sorry, along with an integrated front camera. This Luxury Plus trim includes that, of course. You also have nicely integrated front parking sensors. And I'm also loving the fact that Lexus still throws in some LED fog lights and LED cornering lights. That's a feature that a lot of manufacturers are going away from. Down at the lower fascia, you can see it's got kind of like a glossy gray lower bumper splitter, and you also have some skid plates underneath. Keep in mind, if you're looking at the Overtrail, it'll include additional skid plates, but even the Luxury Plus does get a front bash plate but not as much underbody protection as the overtrail version. Now, as you can see, moving around the side profile, this is built off of course, their latest TNGA-F body-on-frame architecture, something that it shares with the Land Cruiser Series 250, which is also known as the regular Land Cruiser here in America, but it also shares some underpinnings with the Toyota 4Runner, and the GX got a big growth spur for this new generation, this third generation. At 197.1 inches long, it's around 5 inches longer than the old model. It rides on the same 112.2-inch wheelbase as the current Land Cruiser. It's a longer wheelbase versus the old GX, and it's also around 78 inches wide. It's a whopping 4 inches wider versus the previous generation, so that gave it a lot more interior space. You can see going for the luxury trim also includes the biggest wheels, a 22-inch multi-spoke alloy wheel with a 6-lug system. I also love the kind of machined two-tone look to the wheels. The brake rotors are just under 14 inches at the front, with clamped down by a 4-piston caliper. They're around an inch smaller at the rear with a single piston floating. This trim also includes their adaptive variable suspension, so you have adaptive dampers. You have an independent front with a live axle at the back, which again is a signature design for a body-on-frame SUV, and this model offers roughly 8.7 inches of ground clearance. The overtrail version increases that ground clearance to around 9.8. So if you want the most ground clearance, you're going to want to go for that trim. I love how the luxury trims include the full paint finish along the wheel arch trim, and you also have a gloss black finish here for the side sill, which again gives it a classy appearance to it. I also love the fact that when you look at the windshield, it has a very upright design to it. It gives you an homage to, again, something like the old, Land Cruisers back from the 1970s. There's also this really interesting black trim piece here that also is accentuated at the rear at the same position. It's supposed to break up the body lines. You can get a GX with a black roof, but only on the overtrail models. This Luxury Plus is also the only trim to give you a panoramic glass sunroof, although technically this doesn't actually open up to vent air. It just has a electrochromatic feature which allows it to frost and defrost itself at the push of a button. My test car also has the accessory roof rails, which is good if you plan on putting stuff on the roof of the vehicle. And then as you back away, you can see this is just a really boxy, upright vehicle. It's a big box basically with an angry face. So I really like the design language. This car's design, I think, is instantly recognizable as a GX, but it's also tough, it's mean, it's aggressive. And I also love the way those 22-inch wheels look, even though those are not going to give you the best ride quality. If you want, again, a more rugged design, the overtrail gives you an 18-inch wheel with an all-terrain tire. Now, looking at the rear, you can see the rear design will definitely make you realize that this is a luxury version of the Land Cruiser, because it has basically the similar upright design as the Land Cruiser. In fact, the only piece that's different is basically this area over here. This is where Lexus was able to make some changes, and they also added that full and very trendy LED light bar going across the back. It boldly spells out Lexus back here as opposed to having the L badge. That's something that they first introduced on the NX back in 2022. And then of course it just has a very tasteful GX 550 badge there, which again has nothing to do with the engine displacement. If it was, it would say a GX 340, but again, bigger the number, the better it sounds for a luxury brand. The rear bumper you can see has a glossy graphite gray area. And then this right here is the biggest sour point of this new GX, is this little cover covers up the trailer hitch that's included, of course. You can also get a ballpoint connector from the factory as well, or as a dealer accessory. This basically has two pieces underneath here, clips that you have to pull off to remove this, and it's just kind of an eyepiece. I think Lexus could have done a better job there with making that look less like an eyesore. You can see the exhaust is also tucked underneath there, and even though this isn't the off-roady model, all of them are capable off-road, you do have a full-size spare tire mounted underneath there, which is a great feature if you actually plan to go off-roading. You can see the luxury model also includes a tasteful little spoiler. Right here you have a rear window, a wiper that sits at the bottom of the glass. It would have been nicer if they tucked it underneath there. And then you can see the glass does actually give you the ability to just flip that open on its own, which is good if you need to reach for something in here. You don't want to open up the entire tailgate. That's a really nice feature that the old model also had. And unlike the old model, Lexus also got rid of the controversial swing out gate. Instead, they finally replaced it with a much more practical power lift gate that is top mounted. So this is definitely a better choice in terms of practicality, but it also has a little bit less character, but it also gives the GX for the first time a power operated lift gate. As you can see, the cargo area back here when you guys have the 3-row model is just absolutely pathetic. With the 3rd row up, good luck actually fitting even something as small as like a backpack in here, because Lexus says you only have around 10.3 cubic feet of storage space. 10.3 is awful. In fact, as you can see, this is the accessory trailer ball mount that you can get from Lexus. It barely fits back here. As you can see, it almost takes up the entire length of this little cargo area, which is why it's kind of wedged into this area over here. Underneath this little super tiny cargo carpeted mat, you can see there is a little underfloor storage area, which, as you can see, it has a little space for the tools there, along with a little more storage over there. That won't even fit underneath the floor. This would, however, you can see there's the front license plate. And you also have the jack, which is behind that door over here. If you want to fold these seats down, Lexus makes it pretty simple. You basically just push this button. Unfortunately, you do have to hold this button. It doesn't actually have a one-touch feature, but once you hold that, you can see the seats will power fold down. It's a little bit on the slower side, but once you fold it down, this is how most GX owners are gonna have it. It'll give you around 40 cubic feet of storage space. But again, my test car has the captain's chairs, which limits the seating capacity to 6. If you fold down the second row, which you cannot fold from back here, Lexus says the maximum cargo is around 76.9 cubic feet of space, which is pretty usable. Keep in mind, if you guys go for the Overtrail model, it'll delete the third row and you have a maximum of 45 cubic feet with the second row up, or 90 cubic feet. So that's the model that actually has the most cargo space. But I love the fact that because there is no battery pack, because this is not a hybrid like in the Land Cruiser, the floor is completely flat. So I think that makes it a lot more usable. But if you plan to carry, up to 7 people and their stuff, Lexus will happily sell you a TX. So kind of keep that in mind. The GX does have a third row, but it's very, very cramped, and the cargo area is just really pathetic when you're trying to carry all those passengers in every one of those seats. So on the outside, Lexus hasn't made any design changes to the GX, even for 2026, but let's go ahead and take a look at the inside and remind you guys why you might have chosen the Lexus over the Toyota equivalent. But before we get inside, let me show you guys the key fob. As you can see, Lexus has its own unique key fob compared to a Toyota. This key is starting to get a little old, but it's a pretty interesting looking design. I don't love how it's not like a perfect rectangle, but it does have a high quality feel with your typical buttons here for lock, unlock, power liftgate, and a panic function. There is remote start from the fob. You push the lock button 3 times, then hold it on the third try. That'll activate the remote start. And Lexus also offers their digital key functionality where you can use your smartphone as a key if you're an owner. So that's also a really nice touch. Now, unlike some other Lexus models which have their digital latch door handle system, the GX has a traditional pull cable linkage for the door handles, which is kind of a nice old school touch. Touch that area there, you can see the doors will lock. The mirrors will also electrically fold in. Lexus does not offer an auto walkaway lock or unlock feature like some rivals. Touch the back of the door handle and then pull it. That's what will unlock the door for you. Now, as you can see, this limited trim, or this luxury trim, I'm sorry, includes these power retractable running boards, which is definitely a nice upscale touch, not necessarily needed per se for a GX, but what's nice about it is when you close the door, you can see the running boards will automatically retract away. You will still be able to see them slightly, so I almost wish that Lexus made it tuck a little closer to the body, but that's definitely a nice touch there. As you can see, when you open that up, it reveals the interior, and my test car has a really great color combination, although I would have also preferred this car to be painted in atomic silver or nori green. But the incognito exterior, which is like a flat gray, is complemented by this kind of saddle tan, semi-aniline, full leather interior. So this trim is the only trim of the GX to give you the full leather interior, where it's the semi-aniline. And I have to say, the leather is very plush. It's very comfortable. I love the two-tone look where Lexus basically offers an all black color or a gray as well. But these are one of the softest, plushest feeling seats you're gonna experience, and that's what makes a Lexus so unique. These seats also adjust in 14 different ways. The seats are heated and ventilated, and you also have a massage function for the front seats. So that's a feature that is expected of a luxury brand. You cannot get massage seats in the Land Cruiser or the 4Runner, and you can also get the massage seats in this trim, the luxury trims, or the Overtrail Plus also offers the massaging seats as well. You can see the door panel materials. This is kind of where it could be nicer. The door panel looks a little plain. This upper portion has a slightly padded soft touch material. Same thing with this area here. It is the same beautiful semi-aniline here and here and here, but this area could have been a little bit nicer. I also think that Lexus could have put more wood here. You can see this aluminum door handle looks nice with the kind of darked out aluminum. There is some wood trim over here, as you can see, although I'd question if this is actually real wood. It's kind of like a very dark colored wood. I do love the window controls, which have that high quality feel to them with the metal accented controls. The Luxury Plus trim comes with a 21 speaker Mark Levinson stereo. The upgraded stereo, if you're an audiophile, this is much better versus the 10 speaker bass stereo you'll find in the premium trim. And then down here in the lower area, it is hard touch plastic. So the door panel definitely has a little bit of cheapness to it, But once you get past that, and the touch points are still good, the rest of this cabin certainly is going to impress you. Now you can see there's a nice little grab handle here to help short people like myself get into the vehicle. As I hoist myself up, remember the overtrail is going to have an extra inch of ground clearance. Let me go ahead and shut the door. The door has a really solid sounding thunk. However, there is no soft close feature for this door. Some competitors in the space do offer that feature. Now, once you start the vehicle up, you can see start stop button is located high on the dash, which is nice because the steering wheel doesn't block it. And then once you push that button, you can hear the engine fires up. It's got that signature smoothness that Lexus is known for. And this is not a hybrid or a mild hybrid, so it has a very traditional starter noise. And everything kind of whirs to life. You can see my test car has the optional for $900 head-up display, which is an a la carte option, and all of them come with the fully digital 12.3-inch instrument cluster, which is slightly customizable. It also does show a really interesting graphic when you start to cycle between the drive modes there. There's a total of 6 different drive modes, including a Sport Plus, which is kind of silly for a vehicle like this. But we'll try out the different drive modes later on during the driving scene. It does actually adjust the dampers, but again, we'll mention the ride quality later on. The steering wheel, Lexus basically made their power tilt telescoping steering wheel as standard this year, which is definitely an expected touch. It offers a lot of adjustability and range. It's also linked to the 3-person memory function. You get these paddle shifters, of course, and I also love the way the steering wheel looks, from the really smooth leather with the high quality stitching. And you can see the wheel itself is a pretty nice size. You have these actual buttons here as opposed to the silly touch sensitive buttons that you have in like the TX or RX, for example, which is corresponding with the head-up display. I appreciate how Lexus just gives you a traditional button here for this model. And as you can see, the dashboard, it has a soft touch injection molded plastic up here, although it would have been better if this was leather stitched. Down here, it's also slightly padded. There's a small little shelf over here, and you can see this area is kind of covered with the same kind of soft touch injection molded plastic. Again, there isn't much in terms of bright work in this interior, but when you start poking around, you'll notice that the fit and finish is very good. The material quality for a soft touch plastic feels really rubberized, but also high quality as well. And you can see down here, you have more of that wood look trim, which I don't know if this is real wood or fake. It's the same trim from the door panels echoed over here. It just would have been nice if Lexus added more color, added some more stitching. But at the same time, everything still feels really nice, and it feels like it's going to last a long time. Now, all GXs come with the big 14-inch display. This is, of course, the Lexus interface software. We just saw a brand new version of this software in the new Toyota RAV4, so I'm wondering if the new Lexus ES will be the first model to get the upgraded version of this software. You can see it's got basically dedicated shortcut buttons here into the native system. It has built-in GPS. You can go into your settings here, of course. It also has wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. If you want to connect to your phone, my phone is not connected because I'm using it to film right now. But it's, for the most part, pretty easy to use. The one thing I don't like, however, is if you want to get to the massage seats, you have to go here into the screen, and it basically turns off after about 15 minutes, and you have to come into the screen and turn it on every time. I just want Lexus to basically include a shortcut button somewhere over here or somewhere on the dash where I don't have to go into the screen. I find that to be infuriating, but the massage function works really well. You can see there's 5 different types of massages with 5 different types of intensities. It's a really good massage as well. You can see, go into the climate menu here. You can kind of go into the climate functions there and turn on like an eco for the climate if you'd like. You've got your heated and cooled seats that are located in the screen. It's got 2-level heated steering wheel and an automatic setting as well. The ventilated seats are going to be standard equipment on all versions of the GX, which is again an upscale touch. You have an actual volume knob here, and then you have your 2 knobs here for the tri-zone climate control, traditional air vents, and then over here your drive mode selector, which you can also activate a tow haul mode there. If you look at the overtrail, you'll also have a multi-terrain select functionality for off-roading, but this trim doesn't have it. I love how Lexus completely over-engineered this, where you have basically this little cover or lid that slides down for the 12 volt. Most of you will use the USB-C charging ports, however, and you can see the shifter. It's a traditional shifter. Come all the way down here, basically for drive, kick it over to the left for a manual mode. No sport mode here in the transmission, but you do have your paddle shifters, of course. Put the vehicle in reverse. There's your 360 camera, which offers trajectory, distance markers, pretty good quality resolution, but I've seen a newer camera resolution system and a better 360 display in the new Toyota RAV4, so I'll be curious to see when Lexus will eventually adopt that. But again, this is a pretty nice size screen, so no complaints over there. You have your locking center diff here along with your 4-wheel drive control. You can see it's either got high 4 or low 4, which you have to put into neutral to put into low 4. Wireless scroll and charging pads included on this trim, nice size cup holders, padded center console, leather armrest, of course, and then if you open that up, the luxury trims include this cool box, which does a good job of keeping your drinks cold, but Lexus does not recommend that you put meats in here like fish or steak because it's technically not a fridge or a freezer. It's just designed to be a cool box to keep your drinks cold. The seats are, like I mentioned earlier, really plush leather, comfortable and supportive. I can easily find a very comfortable driving position, and I drove this vehicle on a long trip. It's got some of the best seats you're going to find in the segment, so really love that. It's got interior ambient lighting in here, part of their thematic lighting where this lights up, that lights up, the footwell lights up, but it's nothing as intricate as what you'll find from some of the German brands. So that's something where I think Lexus needs to work on. Open up the glove box, you can see it goes into the dash. It's damped, but not lined with felt. Not much in terms of storage, however. Some competitors offer more storage. I would like to see some storage over here. That would have been nice. You can see the digital camera rearview mirror is standard on this trim, which is definitely a really nice touch. If you guys are looking for, you know, this kind of feature, it's standard again on the Luxury Plus, and you can go to a standard mirror if you don't like that. You can see there's a woven material for the headliner. It would have been better if this was Alcantara. You have LED map lighting, of course, and then you can see the glass roof. This is the only trim to get it where I can basically push this button and you can see it'll electrochromatically frost itself or unfrost itself if you want more light. I would have actually preferred this to open up, so I would prefer if Lexus would get rid of that tint feature and allow it to open up, because there is still a feature where you can close a retractable shade there. And honestly, I would rather just close the shade versus have the frosting glass. So let me know which one you guys would prefer. So overall, the interior of the GX hasn't really changed. The luxury trim level definitely feels like a step above, or every trim basically feels like a step above over a Land Cruiser or a 4Runner, but it would be nice to see Lexus add more, you know, warmer materials in here, like more wood, for example, more leather stitching, but at least everything fits together nicely and the tech is very, very solid. Now moving on to the back seat of the GX. Now in this particular trim, it does come standard with the third row. However, if you want the captain's chairs, this is part of an extra $440. It's an a la carte option that rolls in heated second row seats. I personally would not get the captain's chairs. I would stick with the bench seat and allow this vehicle to seat up to 7 people. Or have that third row folded down. You can sit 3 people across as opposed to only being able to sit 2 across. So that's just my personal preference. Some people really like having the option, at least, of the captain's chairs. Now, of course, this being the luxury trim, you also have these retractable manual sunshades, which is a nice touch for parents who have kids in the back. The upper door panel has a rubberized feel, as you can see, just like the front. You have the aluminum accented door handle, nice padded leather here and leather here, more of that synthetic looking wood, as you can see, and the windows controls are one touch up down for even the rear. You still have that same nice Mark Levinson stereo, and it's all hard touch plastic down here. Now these seats, they do offer the ability to recline, where you can recline them here, but they do not slide forward and back. And you can see with the running board and this grab handle, it's pretty easy to get into the back seat area, and Lexus says you have around 36.8 inches of legroom back here. Now, as I get in, this is basically my driving position. I have to say the back seat space in the second row isn't great. I mean, yes, just under 37 inches of legroom is usable, but this is my driving position. There's good foot space. You can see the large hump area here with this plastic piece. If you do have the bench seat for the middle passenger you have to deal with. But you know, for somebody my height, I can get comfortable back here and cross my legs, so it's not bad. But some competitors offer at least an extra 2, 3, maybe even 4 inches of additional legroom in the second row. You do have, you know, your 3-zone climate control with your 3-level heated seats back here, but no cooled seats. An RX offers cooled seats in the second row, so I don't know why the GX doesn't offer that. You can see there's also 2 USB-C charging ports, no actual 12-volt power outlet though, and you can see there's a area here where you have your cup holders. This armrest actually does have the ability to kind of adjust slightly, so that's a nice touch. You have your vents, which are located here in the ceiling, along with a grab handle here, and your LED map lighting is located over here as opposed to over here. In terms of the headroom space, you can see the glass roof does take up some headroom, but I have maybe a solid 2-3 inches of additional clearance, so it's not bad. It provides a nice, you know, view again with more light, but again, I would really prefer this to open up to vent air as opposed to the electrochromatic feature. So overall, the second row is definitely not bad, but I personally would just stick with the bench seat. But I really like the fact that Lexus did include the retractable sunshades. But let's go ahead and hop onto the third row, because that's where the GX has never really been excellent at that. But I will say that the new version isn't bad. So to get back here, you basically pull on this little lever, and once the armrest isn't in the way, let's try that again. it will basically catapult the seat forward and flip it out of the way. That's not good, however, if you have a child seat anchored in there, which means you have to go through the middle and you can't fold the seat out of the way to get into the third row. And as you can see, the third row basically looks like a pair of jump seats. This looks terrible in terms of the space, but let's go ahead and get back here. I can show you guys what it's like. Now, as you can see, there's only 2 seats back here, so don't even think about putting a middle passenger back here. But I have to say, once you're back here, because these seats don't slide, Lexus says you have just under 32 inches of legroom back here. 32 inches is, you know, not great on paper, but for somebody my height at 5'7", I actually have decent legroom. The floor is lifted up higher because of the live axle, of course, and the body on frame, which creates a higher floor, but I could sit back here on shorter trips. So this is actually a little bit better than I expected. You do have features here like third row air vents, which is definitely a nice touch. You also have some LED map lighting back here. You have a USB-C charging port, and you have the ability to kind of power recline the third row if you'd like from back here, and you can also do the same thing on this side. So this is a nice touch to kind of get comfortable. The full reclined position of the third row creates a decent, you know, amount of space to, you know, sit here for a shorter drive. You can see the headroom space is not great. You can see I have my hair almost touching the ceiling, but overall, if you need to fit average size adults in the back in a pinch, you can certainly do so in the GX in the third row. So here we are back behind the wheel of the all-new version of the Lexus GX. When I first had my taste of this vehicle about 1.5 years ago, I was simply in love with this car. I mean, I've always liked the old GX, but it was definitely getting very, very old. Lexus essentially brought the new version into the 21st century, but they also preserved that old school charm, that toughness, that smoothness that you associate with this vehicle. But the big change, of course, was the fact that there is no longer a V8. Instead, we have a twin turbocharged V6. And while some of you may not be happy about the fact that it has a V6, let's go ahead and remind you guys that it has plenty of powers. To get the best time, it's basically in its Sport Plus setting. We're gonna go ahead and brake torque it. Nice sound. All right, we got 6.43 seconds there. That time basically matches the last time that we got in a 2024 GX 550 Luxury Plus. Remember, the Overtrail model is around 200 pounds lighter, and I got the quickest time in that model at around 5.9 seconds. But 6.4 is going to be fast enough for most people. What I love about this powertrain is that V6. It has just the smoothness and the snarl and the silkiness of a 6-cylinder, and it's also significantly faster versus the 4-cylinder hybrid that you get in the 4Runner and in the Land Cruiser. You put your foot down, oh, it sounds good. And I also noticed that in Sport Plus, the engine is being amplified through the speakers, which isn't necessarily, you know, what enthusiasts want to hear, but at the same time, it's a nice sound. And I've always said, if you're gonna do a fake sound, I'm okay with it. It just needs to actually be, you know, a nice sound. Now, when you want to get out of that Sport Plus mode, if you put it into normal or comfort, that fake amplification goes away, and instead you're just left with the normal smoothness of that V6, which again has a really nice noise to it. It's still not going to necessarily replace the V8 with its smoothness, but I have to say, the fake noise that it makes tries to almost sound like a V8, and it makes this thing feel more powerful and sound more powerful, and it actually is fast enough, I think. So I think the powertrain in this model is a reason to choose this over the 4-cylinder hybrid or 4-cylinder turbo that you get in the 4Runner or the standard hybrid in the 4Runner or in the Land Cruiser. So I'll be curious to see whenever Lexus decides to introduce that 4-cylinder turbo hybrid powertrain in the GX. We all know that it's eventually coming. But overall, this is a really nice vehicle in terms of acceleration. It just has that effortless feel that you associate with this car. Now, this is still a 5,700-pound beast, so the one thing that this car has is a Sport Plus mode. I'm not entirely sure why you would even want to put it in Sport Plus, because when you do have it in Sport Plus, what I notice is the steering just gets heavier, the suspension gets noticeably stiffer, but it doesn't really improve the handling. This is still a body-on-frame SUV that has lots of body lean and not much in terms of the steering feedback. Although it is pretty responsive, I will say, when I turn the wheel, the body changes directions pretty fast, but it just has so much squish in the suspension. It just leans about. It almost feels like it rolls over itself. In Sport Plus, it tries to go away with that, but most of the times I actually just enjoy driving this vehicle in its comfort setting. When I put into comfort, the steering gets extra light, it gets really smooth, it's very disconnected feeling, but at the same time, you know, it feels effortless. You put your foot down, there's lots of torque, lots of mid-range from this engine. It has a really smooth shifting 10-speed auto. It's just the perfect partner for this engine as well. It just puts the engine right in the meat of its power band, has lots of gears where it's gonna bang through the gears and just always put the engine in that fat torque curve, which makes the car feel even more effortless, which I love. The interior is also very quiet, not a single squeak or rattle coming from the inside. And everything just feels really well put together. It feels like it's basically going to last a long time. In terms of visibility, I can see out of the front and the side pretty easily. This A-pillar isn't too thick. I also love looking at those two hood bulges that you find. It reminds you that you're driving something special, something truck-like. And then the view out of the back, if you don't use the digital camera rearview mirror, you can see you've got those big head restraints that block the way, but you can fold that down. And it's actually not bad as well, but when you have the camera mirror on, you can literally see everything behind you. So that's a nice touch. The brakes have a somewhat squishy feel at first, but they feel powerful once you really put your foot down and bite into the brakes, get into the brakes. So that's definitely a good thing. But overall, this is just a really easy car to drive around town. It doesn't feel too cumbersome or big. It just doesn't feel sporty. A Sport Plus mode just is not necessary in this vehicle, as are the paddle shifters. People will probably never use them, but instead I've got these really comfortable seats that just feel so plush. I'm sitting here getting a massage, and that's absolutely wonderful. And on longer road trips, you're gonna just find plenty to like about these seats. Now, in terms of fuel efficiency, this is where the GX also suffers, because even though the trip computer was showing around, or at least in theory, you should be able to get around 350 miles of range, the best I was able to get was just under 300 miles of range. That's not great range, and that's because the fuel tank is a little small at 21 gallons. This does have a bigger fuel tank than the Land Cruiser, but the Land Cruiser technically will get better gas mileage. I averaged around 15 mpg in mostly city driving. On the highway, I got it up to around 19. So in mixed driving, 16, 17 is probably what you're gonna get. You'll get around 4 mpg better in the hybrid Land Cruiser or hybrid 4Runner, so keep that in mind. I'll be curious to see again whenever the hybrid version of this car eventually comes out, but you don't buy something like this to get the best gas mileage. It will feel thirstier than it actually is because, again, it has that relatively small fuel tank. I like the way the infotainment system looks with the CarPlay and Android Auto hooked up. You can see you can also expand it out and get rid of the native bar that's off to the side there to expand it. It's basically a 12.3-inch display when you take out the climate control that's always there. But overall, the GX is still a really nice driving vehicle. Smooth, capable feeling, comfortable, quiet, feels like a tank, feels like it's gonna last a long time. It's definitely not sporty, even with the Sport Plus and these 22-inch wheels. And the ride quality and comfort is agreeable, but I noticed over crappier pavement, you're gonna really feel the harsh impacts coming through. You're really gonna feel it in its Sport Plus setting. So if you live in a crappy road area, don't even consider buying the 22-inch wheel models. I really wanna see what this vehicle drives with this suspension setup and the smaller 20-inch wheels. I'm hoping Lexus will eventually offer a smaller 20-inch wheel on the luxury trim at some point. Now, with just under 31,000 units sold last year, the GX has always been a solid sales SUV for the Lexus brand, especially when you consider the fact that the previous generation was one of the oldest vehicles around. It was so old, but Lexus actually still managed to sell a little over 30,000 units every year, which really shows you that this vehicle has a cult following. So after spending a full week with the latest 2026 model year, I have to say, when I first spent a week with the 2024 third generation when it first came out, I was simply blown away because Lexus has basically preserved that special feeling that you always get with the GX. This car essentially feels like a tank. It has a very smooth powertrain. It's got smooth steering, smooth brakes, super cushy and comfortable seats. And while the ride quality of the latest GX still could use a little bit of work, especially if you guys are looking at the luxury trim, even though this vehicle has the adaptive variable suspension with adaptive dampers, the 22-inch wheels really degrade the ride quality. In comfort, it really needs to be a little bit softer. It still produces too much impact harshness. I will go as far and say that this definitely has the best ride quality out of any of the Toyota and Lexus vehicles on the Series 250 platform. I'm talking about the Land Cruiser and the 4Runner. It still could use a better ride quality considering the fact that it's a Lexus, it's a luxury SUV. So kind of keep that in mind. I would like to see basically the adaptive variable suspension on the 20-inch wheels that you get on the premium and premium plus trim. So that's something that I probably wouldn't be surprised to see owners do, is buy this trim and then swap out the wheels for the smaller 20s. I think Lexus should consider offering the 20-inch wheels with the luxury model. You shouldn't have to just go ahead and pick the larger 22s. Keep in mind, there's also the overtrail trim, which technically will give you a softer ride, but I also kind of like how this model is a more street-going version of the GX. I mean, let's be honest here, most people when they buy these brand new will probably never take it off-road, at least not until the third owner eventually takes over for this vehicle. That's where the GX models eventually become kitted out, they become lifted, and that's where people start to realize just how capable these platforms actually are. In terms of the interior, the latest GX, while it may not have the same luxury look as the previous generation, it definitely has the luxury feel. The material quality in here is top-notch. The build quality is superb. Remember, these continue to be built in Japan. And while the second and the third row aren't necessarily the most family-friendly, I was genuinely surprised how I can fit in the back of the third row on shorter trips. So again, you basically have to take your pick between either carrying up to 6 people or carrying 4 people or 5 people and their stuff. The GX does not give you, the option of doing both. Lexus will happily sell you a TX if you guys want to be able to do that. The engine, as you guys saw, delivers solid performance, 0 to 60 in around 6.5 seconds, although we are still waiting for Lexus to eventually introduce a hybrid powertrain of this model, which they've already trademarked, I believe, a GX 550H, but we still have yet to see that vehicle actually show up. I've heard that Lexus has had to delay it, but they've got the hybrid powertrain, of course, in the Land Cruiser, and I wouldn't be surprised to eventually see it show up in this car. But at the same time, I'd argue that that 4-cylinder turbo hybrid will make this car less unique, and what makes the GX stand out compared to a 4Runner and a Land Cruiser is the fact that it has a twin-turbo V6. It's the only vehicle in that, I guess, platform that isn't the LX that actually has the twin turbo V6 that's naturally aspirated. Speaking of which, if you're looking to get your hands on the latest 2026 GX, they are just now rolling into Lexus dealerships. With a starting price of around $66,900. They basically increased the price by around $800 compared to the 2025 model year. That's for the base premium trim. The plus package on the premium adds roughly $4,500 extra. Most of you are going to probably want that to get some of the features that gives you like upgraded 20-inch wheels, the heated second row seats, and the availability to kind of open it up to get some other options as well. Now, most of you are probably also interested in the luxury trim package. That's going to start at around $78,000. The plus package adds roughly $4,000. The luxury trim includes features like the massaging seats, the 22-inch wheels, the Mark Levinson stereo also comes with the plus package, and of course that panoramic one-touch sky roof, which technically doesn't even open up, but at least it gives you that cool electrochromatic feature. With some a la carte options like the head-up display and the second row captain's chairs on my test car, along with the digital key functionality, we're looking at an as-tested price here of $84,744. So just under 85 grand for this vehicle. Definitely sounds like a lot of money. But I also want you guys to keep in mind, if you're looking at something like a Toyota Land Cruiser, the Land Cruiser was roughly around $72,000 when it's fully loaded. So in theory, you could get into a GX Premium for the low $70,000 range, which could be the sweet spot. But if you do want the fully loaded version at 85 grand, it isn't what I would say a value or a bargain, but it does come with a ton of features, a ton of capability, and it's a car that you can essentially buy and plan to own for a very long time. And it has that reputation, of course, for reliability and smoothness. Just be sure you're okay with a slightly bumpier ride, especially if you guys go for this trim here with the 22-inch wheels. Well, with all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the brand new 2026 Lexus GX 550 in the Luxury Plus trim. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.